the black history they never teach in school. So in this video, I'm going to be going over this book called Breaking the Curse of Willie Lynch. Now, I first read this book when I first got to college, and I forget who recommended it to me, like who gave me this book originally, but reading this book fundamentally changed my whole views on race. It fundamentally changed the way I look at America as a country. It fundamentally changed the way I just view the world, period, you guys. And so this book, originally, I was going to do one long video, and I'm sure this video is going to end up being pretty long anyway. But I was going to do one long video breaking down like the whole book, what I learned. But God's just telling me, my spirit is telling me to do something like this. I'm breaking it down into segments. So this video is just part one. In this video, I'm only going over the first 3 chapters of this book. Okay, now this book, it's not even 100 pages, you guys. It don't even cost $10 on Amazon. So I highly recommend every black man, every black woman, especially if you live in America, needs to get this book. I recommend this book to white people as well. If you're a white person watching this, read this book. This is the history that they don't teach. Okay, this is, in my opinion, the #1 problem with black Americans today is that we don't know the full story. Okay, we don't understand the full picture because we're so much in survival mode that we don't have the time to break down stuff like this and really understand the truth about what's happening. Okay, so I highly recommend this book to everybody. It's like $10 on Amazon, but even if you don't have $10, literally you can type in Google Breaking the Curse of Willie Lynch, and this entire book, including the illustrations, is a free PDF online. So I highly encourage you guys, whether you buy this book, whether you just read the free PDF, I encourage everybody who's watching this video, make sure you read this. Okay, and I'm gonna be putting certain screenshots and stuff from the PDF just as reference to the text as I'm going over this, okay? But just to start it off, just a little bit of context, okay? Understand this when you're reading this. Willie Lynch, the person that this book is about, is called Breaking the Curse of Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch was the very first slave master. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that during these first 3 chapters, okay? Slavery has always existed, you guys, no matter what culture, what country, what continent. Slavery has always existed. There's always been slave owners. Okay, emphasis on owner. There's always been people who will torture, who will beat, and use fear and stuff like that to make people and make their slaves submit to them. Even in Africa, even ancient Africans, we had slaves. Egyptians had slaves, right? Willie Lynch was the very first slave master. Okay, understand this. In this book, the whole book is a collection of essays written and spoken by Willie Lynch, okay? And all this stuff was written in 1712. I need you guys to really understand. This is what really changed my mind about this country, about what's really going on, you guys. America didn't even become a country. We didn't sign the Declaration of Independence until over 60 years after this stuff was written. Okay, like we all know the founding fathers of America owned slaves, right? George Washington had slaves. John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, they all had slaves, right? Understand, they were buying their slaves from Willie Lynch Jr. Okay, they were buying their slaves from Willie Lynch's kids and the people that took Willie Lynch's teachings. Okay, so understand that. All this stuff was written in 1712. That's over 50 years. It's 64 years until we signed the Declaration of Independence, you guys. So, hold up, bro. My fault, y'all. I had to go handle something right there. But I was saying this book was written in 1712. These essays and these ideas were created in 1712, the early 1700s. So a little context on Willie Lynch. I told you guys he was the very first slave master. Okay, so he was one of the original people who came from Europe in the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, he learned all this in the West Indies. Because keep in mind, this is 60 years before America was founded, you guys. So he learned this on his plantations in the West Indies, on the plantations he had in the Bahamas, in Brazil. Okay, like this stuff was learned over there, but we're going to talk about what makes American slavery different. Okay, these ideas are what made American slavery different and why we're still feeling it today. Okay, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, it's mind boggling to me. Verbatim, Willie Lynch was quoting in 1712, verbatim, that the stuff he was talking about was still be happening 300 years later. And I'm telling you, in 2023, over 300 years later, it's still happening. It's still going according to their plan, you guys. So just keep that in mind, you guys. Just keep that in mind. And I highly recommend you guys buy this book, because when it comes to a book like this, you guys, I really get in depth. Like, I'm not gonna show, all my notes and show all the pictures, but I really, with something like this, it's a hard read. Okay, and it's not hard like intellectually. Like, it's not like, a college reading level where you can't understand the words and stuff like that. That's not what I mean, you guys. I mean, it's a hard read because it's dealing with hard concepts. Okay, and as hard as it is for a black man, for me to read this, I would imagine it's even harder for white people to read this stuff. Okay, so it's hard in the sense that it's talking about stuff that not a lot of people really talk about, and it's talking about it in a way. A lot of this stuff is verbatim from Willie Lynch's mouth. Okay, so it's literally, you're listening to the perspective of the very first slave master. So a lot of this stuff is hard to deal with, you guys, but I promise you, the only way that we can fix this is by understanding it. The only way that we're gonna help ourselves, you have to understand this first, okay? And so that's why I'm breaking this into segments, because I just feel like I'm not gonna be able to teach everything in this book just in one go. I have to break it down into different parts. So like I said, in part one, this is part one. I'm just going over the first 3 chapters. Okay, so let me see if there's anything I need to say just from the introductory thing. The central motive. Okay, so let me just see. It's nothing really in the introduction and the little preface that I need to bring up, because I feel like that's what I've already said. But it says right here, the next step of Willie Lynch's instruction is to create a state of mind in the male and female that repetitiously perpetuates unforgiveness of one another, while at the same time being apologetic and defensive of white authority and its wrongs. Okay, so like I said, there's always been slave owners. There's always been people who will whip you and beat you and starve you and rape you just to get you to do their bidding as their slave, right? But understand what Willie Lynch was talking about, what he created in his mind. They realized that just torture, just beatings, whippings, lynchings, it wasn't enough. Okay? That it wasn't enough. They wanted a way to enslave us mentally, spiritually, economically. Okay? They needed a way to do even more. That's why it's called a slave master. They wanted a way to make it easier. Okay? They wanted to master us and fully control us economically, spiritually, the way our family structures work. They wanted to figure out a way to fully control us, you guys. And so that's what really makes American slavery different. That's why the effects of that is still felt today compared to most other types of slavery that were practiced all throughout the world, you guys. Because nobody else really cracked this code like Willie Lynch, okay? They wanted and they desired an easier and more humane way of controlling the slaves. That's verbatim. That's verbatim Willie Lynch. He was trying to describe and trying to figure out a more humane way to control their livestock, because that's what they viewed us as, you guys. It wasn't like, matter of fact, I'll just get into the first chapter. I'll get into the first chapter. The first chapter is called Slaves in the Making, Mastering Slaves, you guys. So it's talking about what makes a person a slave. Okay, so a slave is a person under the manipulation or physical confines of another, brought about by brute force or carefully skilled trickery and deceit. Okay, the brute force slavery has always existed, you guys, but Willie Lynch was the one who really quantified how to deceive and trick people into becoming your slaves. And one of the words they talk about is neo-colonialism. Okay, so neo means new, and colonialism is like, you should know what that is, you know what I'm saying? So neo-colonialism is modern day colonialism, is modern day slavery. They wanted a more evolved, that's the way they looked at it, a more evolved way that the white man can physically, mentally, financially, emotionally, and spiritually enslave us even 300 years later in 2023 and still maintain a profit. Okay, so keep that in mind, you guys. A lot of these prisons are for profit. A lot of the stuff that they do in the entertainment industry, in the sports industry, it's a big profit, you guys. It's all about money. Okay? It really wasn't even really about race. It is a little bit, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in this video, but really it comes down to money. It really comes down to economics, okay? They didn't view black people as inhuman because of they just felt like a certain way. No. They started that because they wanted a way to view us as livestock, as property, as economics. Okay, like they wanted to shift that. How do I say this right? That's what fundamentally makes American slavery different. Is all the stuff that they did to make us economically viable. Okay, like understand they paid taxes on us. They paid taxes on slaves, you guys. And so they wanted to figure out how to do that while still maintaining a profit. And one of the things that talks about in chapter 1 is it's the concept of white fear or white guilt. Okay, and this, white people could really tell you more about this than I could because I'm not white, but it's a deep-seated fear and guilt that a lot of white people truly have. And one is the fear that if black people ever do get power, if black people ever are the economic rulers of this country, if we ever are the cultural, spiritual, financial, emotional leaders of this world, they fear that we're going to get revenge. They fear that the hatred they have toward us, we're going to spew it right back out at them. Okay, and the root of that fear, you guys, is really genetic annihilation. And so understand this, like, I'm not saying that I don't hate white people, you guys. I grew up in the rural South, okay? Like, where I went to school growing up, there was 5 black kids in the whole school, okay, including me. There was 1 Mexican and no Asians, okay? So I grew up around country, rural, white people, okay? I don't believe all white people are bad. I don't believe that, okay? I don't hate white people. There's good white people and there's bad white people. There's good black people and there's bad white people. There's good and bad of all types of people, no matter where you're from, what race you are, okay? But even the good white people understand that if you're white and you want your son to be white, you have to do certain things, okay? You have to get with a white woman. If you're white, if I was a white man and I wanted my son to be white, I have to get with a white woman. For us as black people, whether I'm so blessed and thankful that my wife is black, but whether I have kids with a black woman, whether I have kids with a white woman, a Hispanic woman, an Asian woman, an Indian woman, regardless, my son will be black. Okay, so it's really a lot about genetic annihilation is what it really comes down to. That fear that if an all-out race war ever broke out, that white people will fully cease to exist. Okay, that's like a deep-seated fear that a lot of white people have, you guys. And beneath that fear, there's also a self-doubt. Okay, there's a self-doubt. And like I said, I'm not really the best person to explain all this type of stuff. White people could teach you more about this. But as much as they claim to hate us, you guys, as much as even the bad white people, as much as they claim to hate blacks, they still talk like us. They still want to dress like us. They still turn on the TV and they watch football. They watch basketball. They want to play like us. They want to play the sports that we do. They still listen to our music. They still try to style their hair like us. Their women still want us. Okay, it's it's deeper seated than just racism, you guys. It's because black people were the first humans and we were created in the image of God. It's a self-doubt in them that they would never be able to achieve that. Okay, and that's the best way I could really explain it, just in layman's terms, because black people, we are connected to the light. We are connected to Father God in a way that white people, they just simply just aren't. And that it's no fault to them. And there's even a Bible verse about it. I believe it's about Jacob and Esau, about the first white people, when the first white people were created. But it's a reason that they're called the white devils, right? It's because what was the first thing God said? He said, let there be light. Okay, being black, what this melanin allows us to do on a physical and a spiritual level, we absorb the light. We absorb God. Okay, that's why it's deeper than just race. Okay, like it's a real deep thing going on with this stuff, you guys. And so I would challenge white people to please make your own video explaining self-doubt, explaining this type of guilt and this type of hatred. And I would even say that I just watched that Attack on Titan finale. It was fire, you guys. If you haven't seen Attack on Titan, make sure y'all watch that anime. But a lot of white people today, especially young white people, they feel sort of like the Eldians and the Marlians. Like, the reason why a lot of white people get so radicalized is because they feel like they shouldn't be paying for the sins of their ancestors. Okay, so that's where a lot of that white guilt comes from. And like I said, I'm not the best person to explain that. But they fear that they lost their souls a long time ago, you guys. That's why they're called the white devils. They lost the ability to live in color. Okay, it's not a figure of speech and live in color. They lost that ability to live in color a long time ago. And so they really deep down fear when black men and black women, when we properly align ourselves with God, how much more powerful will we be? Okay, so that's what they were talking about, you guys. And they were talking about how to have neo-colonialism even 300 years later, to where, in a nutshell, a modern slave can easily be defined as a person that carries in his or her mind the old ideas, plans, and will of the old traditional slave maker, even though they are no longer physically detained. Okay, so have you guys heard of the story, like, if you tie up a horse baby and you tie them up to the fence, by the time they're grown, they could easily jump the fence and run. But mentally, they will never even attempt that. That's what they were trying to figure out, you guys. That's what they were trying to figure out. And so that was the underlying motive behind becoming a slave master. Is they felt like physical slavery was not enough. The torture, the beatings, the physical barbaric type slavery was not enough. They wanted to figure out how to enslave us on a deeper level. Okay, and they wanted to plant that idea firmly into the heart and soul of black people in the United States, more than any other of the other slaves throughout history in the world. Okay, so that itself is a fundamental difference. Okay, that's really what it talks about in chapter 1, is the fundamental reason that they did that, the fundamental reason they wanted to enslave us mentally. Okay, and let me see if there's anything else I need to talk about from this chapter. I think it was crazy. Another thing I wanted to mention, the last thing in chapter 1, is Willie Lynch verbatim. He said that at minimum, These methods described would enslave black people at minimum for 300 years. But optimistically, they were hoping for 1,000 years. Understand that, you guys. It wasn't just, they weren't just trying to figure out how to enslave their slaves. They wanted to figure out how to enslave multi-generational. Okay? They wanted to figure out how can we enslave these people that 300 years from now, they're still enslaved and we're still making profits. That's what they wanted to figure out, you guys. That's the most important thing. And the last thing from chapter 1 is basically saying, the author was saying to the readers, his question to challenge the thoughts of the reader is, can we afford another generation of ours to continue this slave master and slave relationship? What must we do, and what must we study to prevent the continued tradition of this relationship? Because whether we realize it or not, white America no longer has the need for a codependent relationship with the once shackled slave. To make matters worse, the American economy after September 11th bombing, can no longer support the weight of carrying the responsibility of a master slave. Okay, so that's why I'm making this video now, because I'm telling y'all, a lot of us know that the real Great Depression is really about to happen. The stuff that's going on in Israel and Ukraine, the stuff that's going on with our stock market and our economy, this is about to be the real Great Depression. Okay, this is where they compare America to Rome. We're in the times where America is about to fall, you guys. And I'm telling you, under that stress, under that pressure, they cannot afford, white America cannot afford to keep supporting us like this. Okay, and they really don't care about us. Okay, that's on some real shit. They really don't care about us. And it's getting to that point, especially once this stuff hits the fan, once our economy crashes for real. You guys are going to see a lot of stuff, you guys. A lot of crazy stuff, a lot of true colors. Okay? They're not only do they not care to help us, but they're running out of money to even help themselves. Okay? That's real talk, you guys. I'm telling you. It's getting to that point, man. That's what that stuff, January whatever, where they went and stormed the Capitol and were shooting up the Capitol and the White House and all that type of stuff, you guys. Even the white people are beginning to understand this country is not going to fight for them. This country is not going to support them once this stuff hits the fan, you guys. And I'm telling y'all, when that hits the fan, a lot of this stuff that black people depend on as we move into chapter 2, that's what chapter 2 is really about. It's called Black Animalization. But the core concept of chapter 2 is, how did they create a state of dependency for black people? Okay, here's what Willie Lynch said verbatim. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature, and we break that natural string of independence from them, and thereby create a dependency state, so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and our pleasure. That's verbatim what Willie Lynch was saying in 1712, you guys. And this whole chapter is about creating that dependency state. Okay, so a lot of black people today, we're on food stamps, we're on welfare. A lot of black people are only getting into college because of affirmative action. A lot of black people are only getting hired in certain jobs because of a quota. Okay, a lot of black people are only going to prison because of certain quota, stuff like this, guys. This is where that dependency really came from. Okay, and let's see here. The wounds acquired from the slave experience over time have inflicted enough physical, social, and economic damage to prove that blacks as a people have been animalized. Okay, and it talks about one of the concepts of animalization is becoming detached from the very core of your being that gives you value. Okay, so a lot of ancient cultures, there's a lot of weight on this phrase, know thyself. Okay, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know thyself, that's when you can become animalized and detached from the core of who you truly are. That's once you're detached from who you are, that's when they can instill that dependency state upon you. Okay, so that's what this chapter really talks about. That how they wanted to animalize us and fundamentally take our humanity away from us, fundamentally uncivilize us. Okay, and you become uncivilized when you become subject and governed by the lower negative elements of your nature. Okay, so when you're running around and you're smoking all day, drinking all day, angry all day, hatred is in your heart, unforgiveness is in your heart, when you're ruled by those types of emotions, that's how you truly become uncivilized, you guys. That's what they were talking about. And in the process of making a slave, the African was eventually stripped of any remaining background that would allow the black masses to connect with their natural divinity, or even yet claim any kinship to being made in the image and likeness of God. That's why they don't like Kyrie. That's why they don't like Kanye, you guys. Because as a black man, when you sit up here and you claim that I am created in the image of God and I'm walking with Christ everywhere that I go, when you claim stuff like that, and not just you say it in a video, not just you claim it, I mean when you really claim that and you hold that in your heart, when you hold that belief in your heart, and that's how you walk every day, that's how you talk every day, that's how you raise your children, that's scary. That's scary for a lot of people. Okay, understand that if you're a black man. The strong ones are made examples to instill fear, you guys. It says right here, in most cases, the stronger or more educated Negro was killed outright in front of the rest of the slaves as an example of what happens to a Negro boy slave when he decides to become a human. Okay, understand that stuff. They're trying to make examples out of Kanye. They're trying to make an example out of Kyrie. Even somebody like LeBron, a billionaire. Somebody like Oprah, a billionaire. You can be a billionaire, but you better shut up and dribble. Stuff like that, you guys. They'll bless us with all types of wealth, all types of fame, and fake power, you guys. But as soon as you start trying to help uplift other black people, they're gonna make an example out of you. That's where all this stuff stems from, because it stems from instilling fear that other black men, other black women would not rise up out of fear for what happens. That's why, as a black man, once you realize in your heart, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Once you carry Lord Jesus Christ in your heart and you're willing to fight any battle, 1,000 will fall by our side. 10,000 will fall at our right hand, but no evil will come nigh. Once you really internalize that and believe that every single day, that's so powerful and that's so scary, you guys. And so, excuse me, it talks about in this chapter the destruction of our morals, which include the perversion of our traditional native religious practices and governing social norms. Okay? During the years of physical bondage, the bulk of the black community today is suffering internally because of the debasement of our human, moral, and ethical foundation. Understand that, you guys. And the second part, the second half of chapter 2, it talks about the dehumanization that happened, but, and this is later going to be expanded on in the next chapter, chapter 3, it talks about how this is the stuff that's still going on today. There was a process that they would install gold and silver caps on our front teeth of the black slave. It was so they could identify us. That many of us today wear grills as decoration. Okay, they had us in chains around our hands and chains on our hands, chains around our neck. How many black men, how many black women do you know in 2023 who think it's a cool thing, it's a symbol, it's cool, it's hard, it's you have money if you're gonna spend $100K on a chain? Like, they did that on purpose, you guys. It's not a coincidence that black people wear chains even in 2023. We don't just wear chains as a fashion symbol. We're still chained mentally. Our families are still chained spiritually, you guys. That's what they're really saying, okay? the second part, it deals with the spiritual perversion of a whole culture of people based on training the black African under a European, Western, psychologically domesticated system of indoctrination. Okay, this starts the very moment when black people were stripped of the personal duties and responsibilities of doing for themselves under a system organized and constructed by their own peers. Okay, so understand this, you guys. By not being able to help ourselves, that's what they wanted. They wanted black people to be unable to help ourselves so that we must rely on them. They didn't want Black Wall Street. They don't want black economic freedom. They want us to rely on them. Okay, understand this stuff, y'all. It's deep. This stuff is really deep. That's how they created a state of dependency, or in modern terms, the welfare state. And any black male or female that does anything other than that norm, any black man or black woman who starts their own business, any black man or black woman who starts their own strong family, they can easily be classified as an enemy of the state. Understand this, you guys. This is deep. This is not just, that's why I said I couldn't just make a video breaking down just this whole book in summary. I have to go in depth, chapter by chapter, and really try my best to teach and explain. And this video is long. It's already about 32 minutes, but I still got a little bit more. We still got one more chapter left. Maybe I'll make these shorter. The next video, part 2, is probably just going to be one chapter, maybe 2. Okay, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But if you're watching this all the way until now, you need to read this book, okay? You need to pick up this PDF, okay? It's for free. You need to study this stuff for yourself, because there's only so much I can do as a creator. There's only so much that one video can do, okay? You have to apply these principles to your own life. I'm talking to black men and black women here. In order to save ourselves, I can make a video and I can teach you certain concepts, but I can't start your family for you. I can't make you become a strong black man. I can't make you be a strong black woman, you guys. So it's very important that you don't just watch this and forget about it. You have to work on this, okay? You have to apply it to your own life. If you don't apply it, then the people who lead us are going to be people who don't care about us. Really internalize that. The people who are leading us do not care about us. So really internalize that. If we're going to fix that, we have to become our own leaders. We have to become our own leaders, you guys. Culturally, spiritually, economically, everything, you guys. Everything. We can't rely on another group of people to save us, because they're not going to do it. And they never were going to do it, you guys. It was never part of their plan. And even, this is the last part of chapter 2, even once the slaves were freed, and that era was called the Freedmen's Bureau era, even when the black men were freed. Even just look carefully the way that they used language, the way that they, if you read 1984, you know that double speak, using language, is very powerful. Words have a lot of power, you guys. And so the term freedmen, that's what black people were called once slavery was ended. We weren't free, we were freed men. That implies that somebody else freed us. You understand what I'm saying? That implied that we didn't gain our freedom through our own volition. It was a grace and it was a mercy given to us. That's what that word implies, you guys. And because we had nothing to do with our own freedom, that's a real fundamental reason why black Americans do not get a lot of true respect, and we don't get respect equal to the level of other nations. That's why when Mexicans come across the border, when Asian people immigrate here, when European people and African people, when they immigrate here, okay, they don't respect the original black Americans that were born here, because we didn't have nothing to do with our own freedom. Every other immigrant who came to America did it by choice. Every other immigrant who came to America, every other culture, even white people, they made the choice to get on that boat. They made the choice to relocate their families. Okay? Black people, black Americans. Kanye says slavery was a choice. I personally I agree with that, you guys, because it's a choice whether you want to live on your knees or die on your feet. And there were plenty of slaves who chose to fight back. There were plenty of slaves who jumped off the ship. There were plenty of slaves who were killed outright to be made examples because they were unwilling to live on their knees, you guys. So that's a choice you can make. Not a lot of people have the balls to make that choice, you guys. But it's a choice you have to make. Just like it's a choice you can either stand with Lord Jesus Christ or you can stand against him. That's a choice that you have to make, you guys. And a lot of people are unwilling to make the choice to walk that straight and narrow path, you guys. But at the end of the day, it's still a choice. It's still a choice whether you're going to live on your knees as a slave or if you're going to die on your feet as a man. That's a choice that you have to make, y'all. That's a choice you have to make. And because a lot of us made the wrong choice, we don't get a lot of respect from other cultures, from other nations, nor do we benefit from the fruits of our labor. Okay? Because we still rely on the white man, we don't get to really benefit the fruits of our labor. That goes back to a Kyrie. That goes back to a LeBron, a Oprah, a billionaire, a Michael Jordan, a billionaire. There's black men who are billionaires. Watch what happens if they really tried to help black people. This is something that blew my mind, you guys. It only cost about $100,000 to $250,000 to fully start a bank from scratch. That's all you need is $100K to $250K to fully start a bank from scratch, even black owned. So understand, if you're a billionaire, you'll buy $1 million car, but you won't start 10 black owned banks. That's a choice. Understand that, you guys. Understand that. And it was created like this system, this culture has been manipulated and created that way on purpose. Okay, LeBron will let you hold a Billy, but shut up and dribble. Don't you dare try to help your people. Even that school he started, don't you dare teach them this. That's the fundamental thing behind a lot of this stuff, right? That we can have money, we can have fame, but we can't have true power. As a black man, as a black woman, once we have true power where we can influence not just our own culture, but nations, where we influence the whole world, that's what they don't want, you guys. And so that's really the core concepts in chapter 2. And chapter 3, you guys, chapter 3 is the craziest one, you guys. It says, understanding divisions. And this whole book is really crazy, and it changed my mind on a lot of things. But when I originally read this in college, I want to say damn near I was in tears, okay? Because I'll read you verbatim what Willie Lynch said. He said, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family and your overseers can use it. So here it go. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and these differences that he created in 1700 are still being used to divide us in 2023. He said, I take these differences and I make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. Black men and black women, when I said that, if you're black, I guarantee you know some envious brothers. You know some envious sisters. You know some black men and black women that you can't trust with some money, that you can't trust around your spouse, around your children. You know some black people that you really can't trust, right? And even the fear part, we're scared of cops, but all this black on black violence that was created by, trust me, we're going to get into that. But I guarantee if you're a black man like me, I drive a Charger. And so even though for just a car, wherever I drive, I have my head on a swivel. 1 for cops and 2 for niggas. And it sounds bad like when you say it like that, but that self-hatred, that black on black violence, you guys, it was created for control purposes. is created for control purposes, you guys. And Willie Lynch goes on to say, these methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work all throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. He says, on top of my list is age, but it's only there because it starts with an A. That's verbatim out of his mouth, you guys. It was some type of sick joke. It was some type of joke, you guys, like, oh, it's only because it starts with an A. You know what I'm saying? So they used age to divide us. They want young black men against the older black men. They want the young black women against the older black women. Okay? He said next on the list is color or shade. Understand, before Willie Lynch, light skin and dark skin did not exist, you guys. Light skin and dark skin did not exist. Willie Lynch was the person who came up with the concept of light skin versus dark skin. That division. And even today in 2023, there are people who think dark skin is ugly. There are people who think light skins are weak. Okay? That division still exists even today, you guys. There's the differences of intelligence. Okay? Who's smarter? Who's dumber? That's a difference they could exploit. A difference in size. Okay? Who's bigger? Who's stronger? That's a difference they could exploit. The difference in sex. This is a huge one. The division of the black man and the black woman. I'm so blessed that my wife is black, you guys. But I'm telling you, the division of the black man and the black woman is the most important part of this whole book, you guys. When they broke apart the black family, when they took the black fathers away from the black mothers, and they took the black mothers and they mentally put them against the black fathers, that is really one of the root fundamental causes of why black people are still stuck today. Because our black men and our black women are divided, and they don't want to start families with each other, and they don't want to lead each other in a strong and positive way. That's a huge division, you guys, is sex. The next is the size of the plantation, your status on the plantation. Okay? If you're out in the house or you're out in the field. Okay? If you work in corporate America or you work as a janitor. Okay? What your job is, what's your occupation, how does white corporate America view you? That's a difference they can exploit even to this day, you guys. Whether the slaves live in the valley or on the hill. Whether, this is a big one, they literally invented this division, whether you stay on the east side or the west side, whether you're from the north side or the south side. Okay, and I'm telling y'all, this stuff is deep. This stuff is deep. And he says, now that I have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. They realize fundamentally, you guys, that a lot of people are more negatively biased. And what I mean by that is, let's say you woke up and, God forbid, but somebody stole $100 out your account. That would feel worse. Losing $100, experiencing that negative, feels worse than you're just walking down the street and you pick up $100 bill. Okay, humans are naturally, the way our brains and our minds work, we're naturally more inclined to have a stronger negativity bias. Okay, and I believe the reason this is because the positive, if you go out and you find the $100 bill on the ground, it feels great, but you're not gonna die because of it. Okay, but if you accidentally lose $100, that 100 may have been your rent. Okay, that 100 may have been your car note or something important. If you accidentally ate the wrong thing, that could poison you and kill you. Okay, so the negative, we put more weight on it because the negative can kill you. It can be the death of you. Okay, so that's what I believe, just why humans are naturally like that. But he said that they realized that using these negative emotions of self-hatred is a better tool of control than self-love. Okay, that's what they were talking about. That's what he meant. He says, the black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Verbatim, that's what he said. They were trying to figure out a way to make us perpetuate our own self-hatred. They wanted us to fuel it ourselves. They wanted us to divide ourselves. That's where the slave mastery comes in, you guys. That's how it became easy for them. They no longer have to beat us. They no longer have to whip us unless they want to, just for fun. We'll sit there and we'll whip ourselves. We'll kill each other. They don't have to run through black neighborhoods. We'll run through black neighborhoods ourselves. That's what they were trying to create. Okay, really understand this stuff, y'all. Like, it's crazy. This stuff is crazy. And we're going to talk about in later chapters even crazier stuff, y'all. Like, I'm going through the first three, and there's so much stuff even just in these first three chapters that is like mind-boggling to me. Like, it's crazy to think about this stuff. He says, don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male. The young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and vice versa. You must use the female versus the male, and the male as the female. You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Isn't that crazy to think about? How many, if you're black and you're watching this, how many Uncle Toms do you know? How many people, black people, do you know today that they openly hate, they openly disrespect, and openly distrust black people, but they love, respect, and trust the white man? Isn't that just crazy to think about? And this was the original origin of splitting the black family. And later chapters are going to talk about what they did after they split us, okay? And that stuff is even crazier, you guys. This is just the intro. This is just the intro, like I'm saying. And this stuff is still happening. The author, this is the author speaking now. Although the instructional speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the banks of the James River in the year 1712, these same tactics are still being applied in the workplace and on the black family. And he wrote this book in 2003, but it's even in 2023 and beyond, you guys. This stuff that they're talking about, the fear, the distrust, the envy, the self-hatred, the black man versus the black woman, the light skin versus the dark skin, the strong versus the weak, the big versus the tall, the old versus the young, that is still happening in the workplace and in the home today, right now in 2023. And it's going to keep happening until we step up and change it, you guys. And so at this point, we must come to the agreement that at the foundation of the slave makers' thinking was, and it still is, that the black man and black female must remain divided and ignorant in order that his system may function according to his plans uninterrupted. That's why I said the family structure is really the root of all this, you guys. If you're a black man and you're watching this, if you're a black woman and you're watching this, you can't change the system from the inside. You can't go to your workplace and change all this stuff, you guys. But what you can change is your home. You can change the way that you lead your children. You can change your family, okay? The strong black family is what they really fear the most. I'm telling y'all, that's really the root of all this, you guys. They wanted to get rid of the strong black family so that instead of depending on each other, we have to depend on them. Okay? And what else does this chapter say? In the process of dividing the black male and female, the objective of control became easier due to the fact that the slave makers only have half of the people to manage. Okay, so it's easier for them to control black people when they lock up black men and they, I wouldn't say pedestalize black women, but understand, you guys, the reason out of black people, the majority of college graduates are women. Okay, it's a reason for that, you guys. It's a reason that the black woman has become so masculine. It's a reason that the black man has become so feminine. It's a reason for that, you guys. It's an agenda behind that for centuries, for hundreds of years, you guys. And so that's why, like, D Wade used to be my favorite player, you guys. That's why when I see stuff like, as a black man, you're promoting transgender, you're promoting your child sterilizing themselves and stuff like that. That's why it really breaks my heart. That's why stuff really breaks my heart, you guys. Because when they divide us and conquer us. You understand what I'm saying? That's the whole point. They get the black man against the black woman, so we're not helping each other. So then it's easier to kill black men and it's easier to kill black women. That's why they do it, you guys. And it says, once you split a people's commonly shared identity, once you split their family and their moral values, you can divide the individuals even further by injecting a foreign concept as the solution once they have been split apart. So once they split us up, it's easier for them to sell us the solution. Okay, it's easier for them to cause the problem and then sell the solution if we're divided. Okay, hello Democrat Party. Does that ring a bell, you guys? Like, I'm telling y'all, this stuff, they're trying to sell us the solution after they are the cause of why we split apart. It's so much deeper than just like, that's why I'm saying this is a hard read, you guys, because it's a hard pill to swallow. This is a really hard truth to accept, and once you really learn it, you can't really unsee it, you guys. It says here, a common example in the lives of black people takes place in domestic disputes mediated by so-called white authorities, peacekeepers, and social workers. We invite them into our homes to solve the very problems their foreparents created. This is why a lot of black people don't like therapy. Okay, that's where that, I would say it's a stereotype, but that's where that seed and that root in the black community comes from. That's why black people don't like to go to therapists, because we don't need these white men and these white women, these white psychologists. Even if you have a black therapist, the people that the black therapist learned, everything that they learned from it all came from a white man. Okay, so we don't need that to explain our problems, to solve our problems. We need each other. We need each other. That's the only way. And it says here, often in the black community, money problems take center stage in the drama. More so when there is a surplus than when there is a shortage, you guys. Come on now. Black men and black women, we understand poverty. We understand that if you only have $100, here's how we make that 100 stretch. Okay, like, we understand, even when we're the poorest of poor, at the lowest of lowest financially, we understand, okay, I'll put my dime and you have a quarter, so let's go buy this food for 35 cents. Or let's find something, you know, that we can buy the stuff that we need. Okay, that's where all that stuff really comes from. But the real stress is when you have a surplus. Okay, because it comes when you don't have money. The black man and the black woman, we argue sometimes, but we can agree on the things that we need. Okay, we need food. We need to buy water. We need to buy diapers and baby food, okay, for our children. We need stuff like that. We can understand that when we're poor. But once you're rich, once you have a surplus in abundance of finances, the issue becomes about, what do we want? What do we want to spend our money on? That goes back to the LeBron. That goes back to these black billionaires. That goes back to all types of things. Why do you want to buy $1 million Bugatti, but you don't want to start $1 million black-owned bank? Why do you want to buy why do you want to spend $500,000 on a chain and a watch, but you won't spend $500,000 on a school to teach young black children? That's where the real division becomes, because we can agree on what we need, but once you have a surplus and you can get anything you want, it's really, really hard to agree on the things that we want as a culture. That was done on purpose, you guys. That was done on purpose. It also says legal division mainly falls under the category of courts, marriages, and divorces that are certified by white mainstream authority, by the white judge. Okay? The black men that are paying child support, the black women, the black women that are living off child support. That's not a coincidence, you guys. It's not a coincidence that they want black men to have to pay child support and still not be able to see your kids. That develops a seed of hatred within you. It's no wonder that for black women, they want to lock the black man up. They want to keep us from starting businesses. They want to make it to where we can't provide this type of lifestyle and the type of provisions that the black woman wants. So she has to rely on child support. She has to rely on welfare. Okay? That creates a deep-seated hatred within a black woman. That's why a lot of them say, oh, we don't need no men. Okay? That's why a lot of black men are saying we don't date black women. Okay? Because it's a big seed of self-hatred within a lot of us, you guys, and it wasn't done by coincidence. Okay? And in doing so, when we do that, when we don't have a strong black family, when the black men and the black women are divided, the kids, our black children, our young black men, our young black women, they grow up in that division. Okay? And so what do these black boys do when they don't have a father? They go to the street corner. They need a father regardless. Every child needs a mother and a father. So if the black man, whether he's locked up, whether he's just deadbeat on purpose, or whether it was a case of child court, like the courts made it to where you can't see your child, if the father is not going to raise that young boy, somebody else will. So when they go to that street corner and they want to learn how to sell drugs, they want to learn how to gang bang, stuff like that, you guys, it perpetuates the stereotypes of fly, or like a little gnat flying around. But that reinforces the belief in the minds of the white people, okay, as black men and black women, when we are not raising our children effectively, when we grow up and we allow our sons to be gangbangers, when we allow our daughters to be strippers and OnlyFans models, that only reinforces the belief in white people that we aren't men and women enough to decide, plan, and solve our own problems aside from their input. You understand what I'm saying, y'all? It's deep. It doesn't just affect black people, you guys. It affects the white people as well. And so that's why I said earlier, I would love to see a video. If you're a white man or a white woman, I would love for you to read this book and break it down and give your insight and give your opinion on the white community and how this stuff affects white people. Because it doesn't just affect black people, you guys. It doesn't just affect us. But that's what I'm speaking on, because that's what I have experience with, right? Even before it says, after splitting up our families, then when the kids grow up with no parents, it reinforces those stereotypes, right? So even before they were splitting up our families in the courts, you guys, they were dividing and conquering us any way that they could. Okay, before there was child support, before there was, divorce and stuff like that, they sold the father to one plantation and the mother to another. That's what they did. They've always been trying to divide our families so they could conquer us easier, you guys. And most of the situations that fall under this category are usually decided by an authority appointed mediator, aka the judge, the therapist, the counselor, who tricks the black man and woman by not talking to both of them at the same time. So that's where a lot of that he said, she said stuff comes into play, you guys. By having the black man and the black woman unable to mediate ourselves. We can't sit here and have a civil argument, a civil disagreement between each other and reach a conclusion together. Because we can't do that, they think they're going to step up and do it for us. That's the reinforcing of these stereotypes, you guys. That's why I don't really know the best way to say that, so I'm not going to say that. But of course, their answer is what it says. Of course, their answer to their problems with black men and women is to encourage us to just dissolve our union. Just quit. Don't even try uniting, because this is not what we planned for you blacks to do. That's what they're saying. LeBron, don't even try to start that shit. You better shut up and dribble, because that's not what we planned for you to do with this billion. Okay? Kyrie, don't you dare speak on that stuff. That's not what we planned for you to do once we made you famous. Kanye, don't you dare start talking about these record executives in the music industry. That's not why we made you famous. Okay? Understand this stuff, you guys. They didn't plan for us to have a strong family. They didn't plan for the black man and the black woman to unite. That's why it scares them when we do. Okay? And what needs to be done in the relationships of black men and black women, we need to develop and define our own cultural agenda. It doesn't matter what the white judge says, what the white therapist says. It matters what the husband and the wife, the mother and the father. It matters what we decide for our families. It matters what we decide we're going to teach our children. That's what truly matters, you guys. And it says an agenda systematically structured to overrun any of our personal desires that serve and benefit the opposition, thereby dissolving the goals that breed envy, instigate division, and the spiritual lynching of black families. We have, through decades and centuries of conditioning, been made to believe and practice a foreign people's dictated lifestyle. Okay, and this is the end of chapter 3. Videos over an hour long. If you stayed this far, I mean, I'm so proud of you. I highly recommend that you get this book and read it for yourself. But I also highly recommend you turn on post notifications, you guys, because I'm gonna be doing a whole series on this book. I'm gonna be doing a whole series on these principles. Okay, and it says, this is the last sentence of the chapter: this Eurocentric practice of individual independence of man and woman makes it look like blacks are directly the sole cause of the destruction of their own family structure. Okay, you guys, it's a reason, like I said, it's a reason, and we're going to get into it in later chapters. It's a reason black women are so masculine today. It's a reason a lot of black women want to be boss girls. You understand what I'm saying? It's a reason a lot of black women don't need no man, or so they say. Understand this. Because feminism originally came from white women, okay? The whole concept of a strong and independent woman came because white women didn't want to be dependent on the white man anymore. That's where the original feminism came from. Originally, that's why women originally wanted to vote, because they didn't trust their own white man to lead them and provide for them. So they instilled that same type of belief into our black women. Oh, you need to be strong and independent. You can't trust your black man. You can't trust him to provide for you. You can't trust him to protect you. Okay? And white women wanted to be independent from the white man because that is their system, because the white man really doesn't truly love their women. Okay? They forced that model of feminism onto us to Eurocentrize our family structure. Okay? Understand that. Understand that, you guys. That's where I'm going to leave it. We're going to pick back up with chapter 4, the psycho-alteration of the biochemical. That's going to be next. So make sure you guys like, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications, because I'm going in depth with this book because I think it's important. Okay, like that last video I made, I really made that because that's the video y'all requested. I do think that message is important, especially for black men and black women. We cannot support the LGBT movement. Okay, we have to support strong black families. We have to support black men and black women getting married and having kids and staying married and staying in the family and leading our children, leading the next generation. That's what we really need to be promoting, you guys. Okay, but this stuff, the black history that they never taught you and they will never teach you, that to me is more important than a lot of other issues going on today. Okay, that's why this video was so long. I hope you guys learned from this video. If you like this, if this opened your mind, if this changed your ideas, go down to the comment section, y'all. Go down to the comment section. Tell me how you feel. What was the craziest part of this video? What do you really think, you guys? Pray about it. Am I lying? Am I capping to y'all? Pray and ask God. Okay? Other than that, I think that's where we're going to end. I hope everybody has a blessed rest of their day. And peace.